Welcome to Interview Connections. We're the first ever podcast booking agency. I'm Jessica Rhodes, the founder. And 12 years ago in 2013, I started booking my dad as a guest on podcasts because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And fast forward to today, we're a multi-seven-figure agency. We've worked with over 800 clients. We've booked more than 30,000 podcast interviews. And this podcast is all of our top lessons from the last 12 years, booking entrepreneurs on podcasts, scaling our company to be multi-seven figures a year, distilled down into bite-sized topics and episodes to help you learn from us. I co-host this show with Interview Connections co-owner and CEO, Margie. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode.
On today's episode, we are talking about our business partnership. This is something we get asked about all the time and frequently have people tell us, oh, you're in a business partnership. I was in one of those. It went terribly. I would never do that again. We hear that a lot because people want to share that story with us for some reason. But we wanted to share our tips for having a business partnership that works really well. And even if you don't want to be in business with an actual equity partner, most entrepreneurs are going to end up doing some type of collaboration with another person. And so these tips would still be useful for you.
Yeah, so we're going to share the backstory because how we came to be business partners is very serendipitous. It's not like we were both already business owners and we're just like, would you like to be my partner and take equity in my business? Like it came about, there was, community organizing, there was cats, there was death, like there was, again, serendipity. And it's kind of cool to look back. So we'll kind of share that timeline and then get into the business partner tea. So how things started is we met actually at the job that we both had shortly after college. We were working for Clean Water Action, doing door-to-door field canvassing. And that's how we met. We were working together at that job. This is long before I started Interview Connections and nobody knew what a podcast was. Like that was not even in our in our field. We were just, we were canvassing, not podcasting, we were canvassing. And then we just kind of went on our separate ways. I got married, started having kids, started my business. And, Margie was off traveling the world.
Doing God knows what. Yes. And so when I was living in Taiwan, not Thailand, Taiwan.
Did you say Thailand?
No, but people hear Taiwan and say Thailand. Like,
is that where the White Lotus is?
The White Lotus is in Thailand, although Parker Posey does have a great line where she's like, you're not moving to Taiwan. And Piper's like, what are you talking about? They are different countries. So I was not in Thailand, although I did visit. I was in Taiwan.
Good distinction.
Is a very small country, little island shaped like a little sweet potato. It's lovely. So I was in Taiwan in 2015. My dad died very suddenly. I have an entire podcast about that. And there was a lot of pets because I'm a big animal lover. I take home a lot of pets. I adopt a lot of pets. We don't need to get into the details, but I did move to Taiwan and leave my parents with a bunch of pets. So I was trying to find people to take these pets because my mom was understandably totally overwhelmed, like in shock, in grief. And so I couldn't get home right away. So I was trying to get people to crisis foster these pets, essentially, until I could make it home from Taiwan. So I did a Facebook post, which I think I would have too much anxiety actually looking at it, but that post probably still exists. Like I could find it, but I don't think my nervous system could handle that. Maybe in another 10 years. But I did this post and was just like a desperate plea for people to come to my mom's house and pick up an animal, which is like, it's not the type of post you ever think you're going to make, but it was just like a crazy, desperate time. And Jess, who I'd been out of touch with for years, we worked together, honestly, not for a very long time, but commented and was like, I can come take a cat. And I was like, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And I knew she was like a reliable person and had experience with cats. So it was great news.
Yeah. So I went to Margie's mom's house and to pick up the cat. Her name is Kitten. She was 13 years old at the time. I was like, this cat won't, you know, she's so old. Well, the kitten is still with us
She's
today,
still with us.
10 years later. She's
Bless
very,
her heart.
I guess she wasn't 13 at the time because I think she's like 18 or 19 now. But anyway, so I picked up Kitten. Actually, your mom could not find her in the house, or she was like hiding. So then your mom had to bring her to my house. It was a whole thing. So
Classic
Kitten,
cats.
yeah, absolutely. She was traumatized, and it took a while for her to warm up. And I thought I would just foster her, but then 6 months goes by, and she's just starting to get comfortable in our house. So I decided to keep Kitten. And so Kitten was the glue that kept me and Margie together. I'd keep Margie updated. And then I was looking for people to be freelancers for Interview Connections to do podcast booking. This was before we had full-time employees. And Margie serendipitously saw that post.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was like that week I had just learned what remote work was. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, because I did not like leaving the house to go to work. I was like, this is pointless. I love staying home to this day. That is still true about me. And I had like just learned what remote work was and was like, oh, I want to find a remote job. And then it was like a day or two later that Jess posted that she was hiring for a remote role for 1099 contractors to book people on podcasts. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I feel like I could do that. And I was very excited.
Yeah. So Margie, I'll kind of breeze over these next few details because we have another podcast episode where we really give all the details of like Margie became a booker, then an employee, then co-owner. I'll link to that in the episode description because there's a lot to that story, but we want to share stuff more recently. So kind of long story short there is Margie became the first employee when I started hiring employees, and then 50% co-owner. Now I sound like Parker Posey. Co-owner of Interview Connections.
We should do a whole episode like that. Just kidding. We'd lose our listeners. Please don't leave us.
So, how we like, if I could just kind of summarize it, because we want to give like business partnership lessons, like there was just a knowing that we were a really good fit. And I think that's so important when you have a business partner. You have to balance each other out. Margie brought vision and like a new vision and a different skill set to the business that balanced me out, and so that's why it was really good fit. And like we had already worked together before Interview Connections and multiple years at Interview Connections, so it wasn't like I was just bringing in a partner that I had never met before or who was going to like write a big check. Like there was already a significant test run, and I knew that it was already a good fit and there was so much trust there. So we became business partners like January 2018 is when we signed the partnership agreement. We had a lawyer draw it up and officially became 50-50 co-owners of Interview Connections.
And I think that professional, like working together aspect is important because it is different than just going into business with a friend or family member. And I think people do that successfully. That is possible. But it's sort of like it's like if you think about you have friends that you love, but you would never live with, like you really have to have a good understanding of like how you will work together because you can love someone and be really close with them, but not work well together. And so having some type of professional experience of like collaborating on a project, I think is very helpful. And then as Jess said, there is a big aspect of just like, there was some fate or magic or manifestation to it. Like it did just come together. It wasn't like a strategy of like, okay, if I work at Interview Connections as a contractor for this much time, like eventually like that would not have entered my mind. That did not seem possible. Everything came together in kind of a crazy way that only makes sense when you look back at it, but like you would not have anticipated. And so it was kind of, I think when you're getting into collaborations, there is a little bit of magic and intuition and gut feeling of like, this feels right, combined with drawing up contracts and legal. So it's not all gut feeling. It's like the gut feeling of this feels right, and also the due diligence of contracts and making sure you work well together, and all of that
Yeah,
boring
and we
stuff.
had we had some questions about like splitting income and expenses, and so we'll talk about that, but some people might be curious about like, the equity and the investments, stuff like that. So I didn't like Marky didn't buy 50% of the business. Like I just gave her 50% equity. So there was no like investment to become a business, like a co-owner in the business, which is a little bit, I think, different than a lot of like partnerships and when equity is, sold or given away or split up. Um, so that just is what it is. Like there was definitely, I've researched a lot in terms of like giving employees equity. Would it be like a 10% employee equity stake or something like that? But it just, we've since learned about like human design, and we each have a sacral authority. And for me, like I just listened to my sacral authority and meditated on it, and I'm like, it just feels correct to be 50-50, like not even 49-51 or 40-60. Like that didn't feel good to be like out of balance in that way. Like I wanted a partner that was going to be equally celebrating the wins and equally dealing with the challenges. And there have been a good mix of both wins and challenges. And it just is nice to know that somebody's in it with you equally. And there was a lot of debt to pay off. So when Marky became business owner, co-owner, like we first paid off a lot of business debt before we started taking shareholder distributions. So that's kind of a little bit about like the numbers and, the investment and things like that.
Hmm. But yeah, it was kind of an unusual thing, but it just made sense and it
Yeah.
worked out, which was very exciting. But I think it was definitely something people were like, wait, what? I did not buy in, nor could I have bought in at that point. So,
Yeah, I also don't think the business was in a financial place where like anyone with money would have even bought into the business. Like it just wasn't profitable. It had debt. Like I don't think I could have gotten a business partner that would have bought in. Like it just didn't make sense. So it worked out that we were both on the same page about that.
the price was right. All right. So we got 2017, first employee. 2018 is when we're like officially business partners. And Jess and I started working together and just like scaling like crazy and going into like crazy hyper growth mode where we were just like growing and growing and growing. And it was really fun. It was really intense. One thing that we talk about a lot was we did the Landmark Forum together, like immediately, like at the start of being business partners. We love Landmark, even if Landmark isn't for you, though, some type of consistent personal development that you both do, that you do together, is really, really important because it allowed us to have a shared language to talk through things. It also allowed us to be better at regulation because business stuff can get very stressful. Relational stuff can get very stressful. Working with a business partner is the best, and it makes it easier and more fun to run a company, I think. And also, you deal with some things that wouldn't be on your plate if you were doing it alone, which is navigating that relationship, and you don't always agree and stuff like that. For me, I think it's well worth that. The benefits far outweigh that. But for some people, that challenge is too much, and it's actually easier to just go it alone. So it's important to know yourself. But if you are in collaboration and partnership, doing personal development together, having a shared language to talk about things, to work through conflict, regulating your nervous system, which is post Landmark, we both got very, very into nervous system regulation because we had a client, Elizabeth Kristoff, who taught neuro, and Jess got really into it and then was like, you got to try this. And now we're both obsessed. If you follow us, we talk about it constantly. But that's huge too, right? Like getting really stressed and not just like taking it out on the other person, like knowing how to regulate your nervous system, how to process your feelings so that you're having productive, solution oriented conversations is very important.
Yeah, that first year, like whenever people ask me about our business partnership, I'm like, the fact that January through September of 2018, our first year as business partners, was going through different Landmark programs, the forum, the advanced course, that 8-week seminar series where we're driving 45 minutes to and from Quincy together. Like, I don't want to do this seminar anymore, but it's like, it's breakthroughs on demand. We have to keep having our breakthroughs.
Yes.
It really, it kept us together, and it kept us using that shared language, like working through, breakdowns and things like that. So that was really, really key. That's always my top piece of advice for anyone in a business partnership. Is like, whether it's Landmark or Tony Robbins or some type of do something together where you have that shared language. It's huge, because we were really on a rocket ship. Like, we made big investments. Like, that first year, we took out a business line of credit and made a huge investment into top level business coach and mastermind group. We started traveling multiple times a year to this mastermind group. Like, we were just growing super, super fast, experiencing really, really big wins, and also weathering the growing pains and the chaos that comes with hyper growth. So yeah, the next several years we were running like it was crazy, but it was so good to have a business partner, because I know for me, I was like, I wouldn't have gotten here without Marky, because she had the vision. Like, she came in, she's like, we're going to have a 7-figure business. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, my initial vision when I started the business was like, I want to have a 6-figure business with employees. And then once I did that, I was like, where are we going next? And she's like, I got it. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I think that's also a really big benefit of having a partner, is somebody who can bring in some different vision and different ideas.
Yeah, and it was perfect because I had no business. So like just having the like tenacity to grow something from 0 to 6 figures, and then us collaborating on like how far can we take this? It was just like it felt very effortless, in a way that like I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but trying to find my thing, like what do I like it just I had kind of a block there because I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I have to offer that I would like love to do that people would want. And so, like, that trying to figure it out, it was so nice to come into something that already had momentum and be able to just like use the skills that I had and develop those skills and just like run instead of having that kind of being stuck type of thing.
Yeah. And I think another aspect of our business partnership that is reflected kind of in our timeline story is we've had this, like, I'm a big Dancing with the Stars fan. So sometimes I think about like the metaphor of ballroom dancing, but we've had this nice flow of like sometimes somebody is taking the lead and kind of more in the spotlight, and while the other person's like behind the scenes, and vice versa. So there have been times where we were kind of like both front facing. I would say like 2020, 2021, we were both very equally in like all the marketing and like doing all that together. And then Marky, you kind of like went behind the scenes because it was like we were having those growing pains, right? When the foundation starts to crack, it's like, okay, we need to go add some reinforcements there and clean things up. So then I kept taking the lead on like sales and marketing. And just that's an important lesson, because sometimes, I don't know if it's like founder syndrome, but we learned, I think it was intuitive, to take the ego out of the being in the spotlight, because you have to just do what is needed and you have to go where you're needed. And I don't know if you want to jump in on that, because now I'm kind of off our notes, but like we have had that dance of like sometimes somebody's more out front and sometimes the other one's in the back, and we kind of have traded places there, but I feel like it's been in sync.
Yeah, I think that is related to like there are seasons.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to say like we're going to be long-term partners. And I think true of any relationship, and like this is what it's going to be like, because there's just like there are seasons. There are seasons, and depending on the priorities in the business, depending on what's going on, like it is kind of like an organic dancing with the stars.
Yes.
Where, yes. And so we've kind of had this trajectory of like, it was the two of us, especially like in 2018, Jess had been the face of the company and the sole owner. And so when I came in 2018, it was this big, like, okay, like get out in the spotlight. Like people need to know who you are. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. And which was a little nerve wracking, but I just kind of like threw myself into it because I was like, I gotta do it. So I was like brand new in business, but like in this already established business, and like starting to like do interviews, and it was very interesting. And then yes, as we had some stuff behind the scenes that needed to get dealt with, I kind of pulled back a little bit and was focusing on other things. And then we got in these lanes where we were like, Jess was very much like sales and marketing and leading the sales team. And I was very focused on the future of the business and service delivery. And if anyone who does, like, if you grow a service, a done for you service to a certain point, I think everybody probably runs into a similar thing, which is, first of all, if you're scaling really fast, making sure the wheels don't fall off the bus, but also it takes a lot of team to do a done for you service, depending on what that service is. Now, people probably leverage more AI in certain things, but we don't. And we definitely didn't then. And so we needed a lot of team to fulfill all these new clients that were coming on. And then you realize that you're working harder and harder and harder. But then you're like, wait, our profitability seems to be going down. Like we have more top line than ever. And so having to really gain maturity and wisdom around spending, around how do we work as a team so that we're able to serve clients at a really high level and in a way that is profitable for the business to keep growing. And those were questions that took years to answer, like years and years.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I want to share, which is such an important lesson. So there's a lot of like lessons, like if you're married or in a relationship, like you've probably heard, there's so many lessons for married couples that are super applicable in business as well. Like, especially like if you have kids, like one of those lessons is like, don't ever keep score or like compare, because I will tell you, as equal business partners, the biggest pitfall you can get in is starting to compare who's doing what, like however you, how hard is each person working? How many hours is each person working? Don't do that. That is a recipe for being in a super bad mood and starting to tally. Like, it's just not healthy. I've seen this, like, in movies with married couples who are starting to tally, like, well, you took the trash out yesterday and I didn't, or anything like that. It's super unhealthy, because something our business mentor, Melanie Ann Layer, says is like, what is it, like equal value but different? Like as business partners, you bring equal value, but sometimes it looks different. And so like one example is Margie was on maternity leave and we were like checking in over the Christmas break. Like she was still on leave, and like one financial strategy that she came up with in like, I don't know how long of just like strategizing was very nice for us. And I'm like, that wasn't her just like logging hours and hours of like producer work, but it made a huge difference in our business and for us personally. So sometimes as business partners, like it's not about the amount of hours you're each working, and you have to be in communication about that. But that's something that like I've been in a producer role for a long time, and now I'm like more in a leadership role with the sales team. So my schedule's a little bit more freed up, but there was a lot of time where I was in a producer role where I'm doing sales calls all day, and Margie's schedule is like a little bit more tight, but she's on walks, like reading and thinking and, having mentorship conversations with the leadership team. So the schedules don't look the same, but the value is the same. And I think that's so, so important, because I think that's probably the biggest pitfall that business partners fall into that just totally sours the relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's like, is it working? Right?
Yeah.
Like, is the dynamic working? Because if it's not working, then it's not working, and that's a good conversation. And then I think the seasons, and I think there are times where it's like, when we were in different lanes, there were times where like I would be like so overwhelmed on the team, or like things would be light for me on the team and just was so overwhelmed with sales. And like it is hard, and it's like there are seasons, and sometimes you do have to come together and be like, look, I'm getting really overwhelmed. Can we like talk this through? And oftentimes it's like, can we talk through how to like delegate this to more team? Or can you come in and help with this? Or can we even just like talk about this more so that I feel more supported? And so like being able to have those conversations, being able to pivot and navigate those like evolving and changing seasons, yeah. And we sort of, there's so much advice, right? It's like, the main advice I feel like that you always hear is like, you each need to be in your own lane. And that's true and happens organically. But then there's also times, and we're in a time right now where we're coming together more, right? Like it was like I was so on the team and Jess was so front facing. And now we're coming back to doing the podcast together, to doing the masterclass together, because it's fun to do that stuff together. And I learned after years working with the team, I mean, the team is amazing. They have incredible leadership over there. And being on maternity leave, I was like, oh, they do not need me anymore. So now I
Yeah.
can do something else. And so that's, those season changing. And I think embracing that is good.
Yeah, the delegating is huge. Like that's been one of my biggest learnings is when I'm overwhelmed in heavy producer mode, like rather than just getting buried and overwhelmed, actually communicating that because Marky's like queen of delegation, so good at it. And she's like, well, like, let's actually look at what your priorities are. What are you working on? And 9 times out of 10, it's like there's stuff that maybe could be scheduled out a little bit differently or delegated or crossed off the list. And so that communication is so, so, so important. So being in your own lanes, but also communicating and just knowing, yeah, there are seasons, there are seasons where one person, like Marky was pregnant for 9 months of 2024.
For 10 years.
Sick, like barely able to get out of bed. And I was feeling great. Like I was super vital and energized, and my kids are 9 and 12. And I remember feeling like how grateful I was when I was pregnant with Lucy, because Nathan I was pregnant with before I started the business. And like I had a team member that really stepped up and took things over. And I just was like, this is such a special time in life to be having a baby. And it was my honor to take on as much as I could to like let her rest. And so there are seasons. It's not always going to look the same. Like 50-50 business partners doesn't mean you have the exact same schedule and the exact same meetings and the exact same task. It means you're there for each other. And also knowing that like, don't turn on each other because you guys are in it together. Like,
yes. And have those conversations, right?
Yeah.
Like don't let it build up if you are feeling resentment and stuff. But I think having the tools to regulate your nervous system, to look at what's going on here, like, right? Like what's my story about what's happening versus what's actually happening? Because sometimes in relationships, you'll have a story that like this person's not supporting me and they're not doing this. And then it's like, okay, well, what's actually happening? Well, I'm getting overwhelmed. I haven't really communicated my needs to them and they maybe don't know what they are. Okay, like let's have a conversation about it. So yeah, and it's just that like hygiene of relationships is everything. It's like, I don't know who it is. Like, I think it's like Jim Rohn or something, who's like, showering only works if you do it every day. Like there is no like magic formula for having a strong working partnership. It is like the constant work of keeping it clean and getting complete and having conversations and navigating these different seasons.
Yeah. And we've mentioned it a few times, but like nervous system regulation was a huge part of having like a successful business partnership and like keeping our partnership successful, because I mean, we've been partners since 2018, and I'm not going to lie, I won't share any dirty laundry, but like there was definitely moments that like there have definitely been stormy days, and there have definitely been those moments where like I still get chills to this day of like, oh God, that was not my best light. Margie's probably seen me in my worst days. Like
same. I mean, a lot of wounding comes up in really close relationships. And even if you've never had a business partnership, if you are married, right?
Yeah.
Like they see a very different parts of you than other people do, right? Like they really trigger those like deeper things. And it's an incredible opportunity to grow and evolve and work on those things. And you have to be prepared for that, because it is any type of really close relationship, especially when you're under constant stress, like in a business, is going to bring out sides of you. And it definitely brought out sides of me that I'm like, I don't love that about myself. Like I would like to not be like that anymore. And you can grow, but you have to, you end up seeing that stuff about yourself. That's hard.
Yeah. So doing nervous system, like training our nervous system, doing that regulation, there were like, I learned like there were personality traits of, I mean, both of us learned it, but we each have personality traits that I thought that's just how I was. And turns out it was a trauma response.
Yeah.
fawning is not my personality. That was a trauma response. That was a stress response. And so doing daily nervous system training and regulation with brain-based wellness, shout out, what is it? freeneurotrial.com.
Freeneurotrial.com. Yes. Put it in the show notes.
Go do it because it makes such a huge difference, and we're able to hold so much more now and stay calm. Like, I'll never forget, there was one moment where I don't know what conversation we were having, but I was getting very defensive, and Margie said, like, she didn't say you're getting very defensive. She says, you seem very dysregulated right now. But that language, like, it was such a different, because I could say I am very dysregulated. Because if someone says you're being very intensive, you're like, no, I'm not.
Right. Also, shout out to Jess for like it. I don't know how I would respond if I was very dysregulated and someone said that to me. I think I might.
No,
be like,
because
you
your
know
response
what?
is to fight. You're just like,
Yeah, I'm a little fighty for stuff like that. But Jess is like a really, even when Jess gets dysregulated, like she's a very like reasonable person. And I always deeply appreciate that and want to be more like that.
I'm just like, how does the threat want me to behave? I will behave that way.
We're working on it. I feel that parenthood has mellowed me a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. And that's been really nice too. Because Margie's a mom now, which up until
Crazy.
4 or 5 months ago, well, she was pregnant. She really started to mellow out with pregnancy too.
It weakened me in a way that I think was very good for the people around me. Everyone was like, wow, you're so much calmer. You have so much less energy to put towards being intense. I actually like this. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's been very nice. But yeah, relational hygiene, nervous system regulation, those are so, so important. And just knowing that there are seasons, not turning on each other because, whether it's team issues or client issues, sometimes it is tempting to like be upset with the person closest to you, but then you realize like, oh God, we're in this together. Like we cannot turn each other. It's the same thing. Like if you're married with kids, as tempting as it is to want to get pissed off at your spouse, it's like, no, we have each other. Like
it's us versus them.
It's us versus them. Like stay connected. So, and then we did have a question that came in about like income. So let's just go over kind of the business arrangement. So like Interview Connections is a corporation. So like money comes into the business. We use profit first and we get paid the exact same amount. So 50%, like 50-50 business partners, which means we have the exact same salary. We take the exact same shareholder distributions. And then as far as expenses, like the business pays for everything. So we're not taking our personal money and putting it into the business. And because we're business partners, I think sometimes when you're 100% sole owner, like I'm not going to call anyone out, but like a lot of 100% sole owners, like they're going to put a lot of personal stuff through the business because it's a tax write-off. We don't do that so much because we're equal business partners. And so, Jamie made a joke. I was like, Jamie, come on. My husband likes to see how much he can push the limits. So I'm getting new windows in the house and he goes, you should talk to Margie about how the windows behind your desk are used for the business. Like it's great background. So the business should pay for those. I was like, Jamie, the business is not going to pay for windows in my office.
I love that he's always trying to get something from the man, but you're literally the man. God bless him though. I feel like Alex is the same way. It'll be stuff that doesn't make any sense. And she's like, what if the business just bought it? And I'm like, I don't think you understand how this works.
We're responsible. We're terrified of getting audited, So
yes, we keep it very clean. We've gotten compliments from our accountants. So no brag.
Very, very well organized. The one thing we put through the business is our cell phone. We are on a shared cell phone plan, but we use the phone for business for sure, more than anything else. So
yeah, but we are on a family plan
together at Verizon. Plan. Yeah, it's not a business line; it's a family plan because two people with a cell phone, it doesn't really make sense to it's not a business account.
Right, it's a family plan.
So now you guys know more about our cell phone plan than probably anyone else.
Probably more than you wanted to, honestly.
What else? Any other top questions? I mean, people ask me like, how do I get a marquee, And I mean, y'all, we just shared the story. Like a cat brought us together. I don't really have advice on how to find a marquee or how to find a Jess. Like, I think manifestation, honestly, you just kind of need to attract the right person and then keep it legal, work with a lawyer, and don't jump into a business partnership without really doing your due diligence. Like, work with that person. We've seen people just get so excited and like, great, let's do it. And then it's like, oh, it crashes and burns. Have a long-term vision. What do you like? I mean, in our shareholder agreement, there is language around like what happens if I'm in a coma? What happens if one of us dies? Like that is how serious this agreement and this partnership is. So think all of those things through.
Yes. And if you are in a partnership-ish thing with someone, but they don't actually have equity in your business and you don't want them to, get that in writing too. Because people can make a claim on the equity in your company if you don't have explicit contracts saying that they don't have it. So if you have a contractor or like another entrepreneur that you collaborate with on something, if they are not an equity partner, get it in writing what they are. And again, like, yes, you're probably super excited and that's amazing. Do that at the very beginning while things are good, while people are getting along, just in case.
Yeah. So that's it. Oh, I guess other things, just I'm thinking about little things that people might want to know. Like we meet on a weekly basis, but we're kind of in like a never ending conversation on Slack. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. I think that's really, really important. So boundaries around communication, especially when you're besties with your business partner, some like you might not be like super besties with your business partner, but a lot of us are. And so we have learned to have boundaries around like how we communicate. So we have Slack. And so pretty much with the exception of when Marky was on maternity leave, like only communicating through Slack because we both check it fairly often. So it's not like anything goes missed. But with iMessage, like just like texting, it can be an ongoing conversation. And as business owners, like you could be working at random hours. And there's also hours where you're like, I need to not think about this business right now.
Yes. No matter how much you love the person, they are going to remind you of the business.
Right.
And so sometimes you're like, I just want to not open this app like Slack and like pretend this business doesn't exist for 30 minutes while I slowly eat this turkey sandwich.
Exactly.
And that's important.
And there are some exceptions. Like if a sale comes through,
yes,
you can always text.
Good money news or an animal emergency
Yeah.
are my big exceptions that everyone on the team knows that they can like text me or call me at any hour. And I do get calls from the team sometimes of like, I found a cat. Can you help me? So
yeah. Yeah. So, and then like, social media, Facebook or Instagram will send each other like funny messages or something like that.
free for all.
Yeah. But that's what I would definitely recommend is having a communication platform that either one of you can choose to not open if you need some space from the business.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah. I think that's it. If you guys have questions about business partnerships, we are in a pretty open book. You can send us a DM on Instagram at Interview Connections. I'm in that inbox and we'd be happy to answer any questions. And we'll link to the podcast that we mentioned. Like we have that other podcast we did in 2018 or 2019. I don't know. It was a while back about kind of like actually becoming business partners. If you want more details about like how we came to that equity agreement and everything, I'll link to that. And we'll also put a link to your podcast, We Get It, Your Dad Died. They want to hear your story there. And then also free neuro trial. Like you should all start using brain-based wellness and doing daily nervous system regulation. So those are all of your calls to action. Go do them and prosper.
Thank you. Goodbye.